The lock clicked. My own front door, my own house, and I couldn't get in. I said you need to leave. Darlene Kruger's voice came through the screen door, sharp as broken glass. She stood in my entryway wearing my late mother's pearl necklace, the one I kept in the velvet box on my dresser, the one that wasn't hers. My fingers went numb around the hospital discharge papers. 32 days I'd been gone. 32 days fighting my way back from a stroke that should have killed me. And now this woman, my son's mother-in-law, stood in my house like she owned it. Darlene, I don't know what Weston told you, but there's been a mistake. My legs shook. The doctor said I needed rest, said I needed to take it easy. But I was 71 years old, standing on my own porch, begging to come home. Hi, viewers, my Paini. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. No mistake, Maureen. She smiled. Actually smiled. This house belongs to us now, legally. The deed's been transferred. The world tilted sideways. I grabbed the porch railing, the one I'd painted white every spring for 37 years. That's not possible. Very possible. Her husband Randall appeared behind her, filling the doorway. He held a coffee mug. My coffee mug. The one that said "World's Best Mom" that Weston gave me for Mother's Day when he was 9. Your son signed everything over while you were in the hospital. Smart kid. Knew you weren't coming back. The azaleas I'd planted when Weston was born swayed in the June breeze. Pink and white petals scattered across the walkway like confetti at a funeral. My funeral. Because that's what this felt like, being dead while still breathing. I want to talk to Weston. My voice came out smaller than I meant it to. Right now. He's at work. Darlene examined her fingernails. Red polish, bright as blood. Won't be home until late. And even when he gets here, the answer's the same. This isn't your house anymore. It's ours. You can't just... We can. Randall stepped closer to the screen door, close enough that I could smell the coffee, my coffee, from my kitchen. We have the paperwork. Everything's legal. You need to accept reality and move on. Move on? The words tasted like poison. I paid off this house 20 years ago. My husband built that garage with his own hands. I planted every single tree in the backyard. Had, Darlene corrected. You had a house. Past tense, sweetheart. They shut the door, the real door, not just the screen. The sound of the deadbolt sliding into place echoed across the porch. My deadbolt, my door, my home. I stood there as the afternoon sun burned the back of my neck. Across the street, Mrs. Kowalski pretended to water her roses, but I saw her staring. 2 houses down, the fam kids stopped shooting baskets. Everyone on Sycamore Street would know by dinner time that old Maureen Vernon got kicked out of her own house. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Weston's name glowed on the screen. I answered. Didn't say hello. Didn't say anything. Mom. His voice sounded far away, guilty. I can explain. Explain what? Explain how your in-laws are wearing my jewelry and drinking from my mugs and telling me I can't come into my own house? Silence, then. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it. He sighed. The kind of sigh that meant he was rubbing his forehead the way he did when he was stressed. Pepper's parents lost their apartment. The building sold. They had nowhere to go. And you were in the hospital, and the doctor said, they said you might not wake up, Mom. They said to prepare for the worst. The concrete steps felt rough under my palm as I lowered myself down, sitting, because standing took too much energy and I had nothing left. But I did wake up, I whispered. I'm right here. I know, and I'm glad. I'm so glad. He paused. I heard office sounds in the background, phones ringing, people laughing, normal sounds from his normal day while my world ended. But the paperwork's already done. Darlene and Randall need this house. They're family now. I'm family. I'm your mother. You're also on my deed, remember? 5 years ago for estate planning? The lawyer said it would make everything easier when... He stopped. When I died. That's what he couldn't say. That was supposed to protect the house, I said, not give you permission to steal it. I'm not stealing anything. I'm helping my wife's parents. They raised Pepper. They need help now. It's the right thing to do. The right thing. Like abandoning your mother was somehow noble. Where am I supposed to go, Weston? Another pause. Longer this time. I sent you money. Check your account. Get a hotel. Something nice. Take a few days. Rest up. You've been through a lot. My phone showed the notification. $500 deposited. Like I was a problem he could solve with cash. A hotel, I repeated. Flat, empty. Just temporary. Until we figure things out. Someone called his name in the background. I have to go. There's a meeting. We'll talk later, okay? The line went dead before I could answer. I sat on those steps until the sun started sinking. Until my left leg, the one that still didn't work right after the stroke, went completely numb. Until Mrs. Kowalski went inside and the fam kids got called in for dinner and the street emptied out like everyone was abandoning me. The Uber driver who picked me up had purple hair and kind eyes. She helped me into the back seat without asking questions. Smart woman. The extended stay America off Highway 9 smelled like cleaning chemicals trying to hide cigarette smoke. The clerk barely looked up when I checked in. Room 237 had 2 beds with stiff floral bedspreads, a mini fridge that hummed like a dying bee, and a window that faced the dumpsters. I set my overnight bag on the bed. Everything I owned in the world fit in one small duffel. The hospital had given me these clothes, drawstring pants and a shirt that said, County General, where miracles happen. Some miracle. I'd survived a stroke only to lose everything that mattered. My phone sat on the nightstand, silent and accusing. I picked it up. Put it down, picked it up again, called Weston, voicemail, called again an hour later, voicemail. At midnight, I gave up and turned on the TV just to fill the silence with other people's problems. 3 days bled together like watercolors in the rain. I called Weston 16 times. He answered once, said he was busy, and hung up before I could speak. I tried to eat the continental breakfast in the lobby, but everything tasted like cardboard. I walked to the convenience store next door and bought instant coffee and crackers because $500 wouldn't last forever, and I didn't know what came next. On the morning of day 3, my cousin Rita called from Delaware. I hadn't talked to her in 6 months. Maureen, I heard. Her voice dripped with pity. Mrs. Kowalski posted about it on Facebook. I'm so sorry. Facebook. Perfect. My humiliation broadcasted to everyone I'd ever known. I'm fine, I lied. You're not fine. What Weston did, that's not right. That's not legal. She paused. Have you talked to a lawyer? With what money? There are people who help with this kind of thing. Elder abuse hotlines, legal aid. Elder abuse. The words sat in my stomach like stones. That's what this was. Not a family disagreement, not a misunderstanding. Abuse. I'll figure it out, I said, because admitting I needed that kind of help meant admitting I'd raised the kind of son who would do this to his mother. After we hung up, I sat in the extended stay lobby because the walls of my room were closing in. The coffee was free, even if it tasted like dirty dishwater. I added 3 creams and 4 sugars and pretended to read a magazine about fishing. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Vernon? A young man's voice, nervous. This is Officer Kip Rothman with the County Sheriff's Department. I'm calling about a property dispute at 4782 Sycamore Street. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. What happened? There's been an incident at your property. Your son listed you as an emergency contact. Can you come to the station? The station sat between a dentist's office and a pawn shop. A squat brick building with an American flag snapping in the wind. Officer Rothman met me in the lobby. He looked about 12 years old with round cheeks and wire-rimmed glasses. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Vernon. He led me to a small office that smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. We had a situation at your address this morning. What kind of situation? He pulled out a folder. A neighbor reported a possible gas leak. fire department responded. When they entered the premises, they found several building code violations. My heart started doing something strange. What violations? The garage had been converted into living space. No permits. Electrical work done without a license. The kitchen showed evidence of a grease fire that was never reported. And the gas leak came from an appliance that wasn't installed correctly. He looked up. The fire marshal red tagged the entire property. Nobody can live there until everything's fixed and inspected. The room spun. Where's Weston? Here, with Mr. and Mrs. Kruger. He cleared his throat. They're claiming you're responsible for the violations since the work was done under your ownership. I was in the hospital for a month. I didn't know about any of this. That's what I thought. He pulled out another paper. I checked the permit applications. All the work was done 3 months ago. Permits filed under your name, but the signature doesn't match your driver's license. Everything stopped. Someone forged my signature? Looks that way. And Mrs. Vernon, there's something else. He leaned forward. The deed transfer that gave the Krugers ownership? The notary seal belongs to someone whose license expired 6 months ago, and it's dated while you were in the hospital, while you were unconscious. The word hung in the air like smoke. Fraud. I need you to file a formal complaint. He slid a form across the desk. This is serious. Forgery. Fraud. Possibly identity theft. The door opened. Weston walked in and I barely knew him. His tie hung loose, his hair stuck up in every direction. His eyes were red and swollen. Mom. His voice cracked. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Behind him, Darlene and Randall looked like they'd aged a decade since I saw them 3 days ago. Darlene's makeup was smeared. Randall's shoulders slumped. Don't blame us, Darlene said, but her voice shook. We didn't do anything wrong. You forged documents, Officer Rothman said calmly. You hired unlicensed contractors. You falsified permit applications. Those are crimes. We hired someone to help with paperwork, Randall stammered. We didn't know he wasn't licensed. We didn't know. You knew enough to forge my mother's signature, Weston interrupted. His voice rose. You knew enough to lie to me. You said Mom agreed to this before her stroke. You said it was all arranged. She wasn't using the house, Darlene shot back. The doctor said she was dying. She's not dead. Weston's shout echoed off the walls. She's standing right here. And you took her home. You wore her jewelry. You laughed when she asked to come inside. Darlene's face went white. Mr. and Mrs. Kruger, I need you to come with me. Officer Rothman stood. We have questions about the forged documents and permits. We want a lawyer, Randall said. That's your right. The officer gestured to the door. This way. I watched them leave, Darlene's heels clicking on the tile floor. The sound got quieter and quieter until it disappeared completely. The office went silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and Weston's ragged breathing. He collapsed into a chair, put his head in his hands. I'm sorry. The words came out muffled. Mom, I'm so sorry. Every instinct screamed at me to comfort him, to say it's okay, to fix this. 35 years of motherhood doesn't shut off like a switch. But I stayed in my chair, hands folded, waiting. Pepper was crying every night. His voice broke. Her parents lost everything. Medical bills from her dad's surgery, no savings, nowhere to go. And then you had the stroke, and the doctor said, they said you probably wouldn't make it. They said even if you woke up, you'd need full-time care. A nursing home, maybe. So you gave them my house. He nodded without looking up. I thought I was helping everyone. I thought you wouldn't need it anymore. I thought. He finally raised his head. Tears streamed down his face. I thought I was doing the right thing. By forging my signature, by lying to me? I didn't forge anything. That was Darlene and Randall. They said they'd handle the paperwork. They said you'd signed papers before the stroke. I believed them. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve. I should have checked. I should have questioned. But Pepper was so upset and her parents seemed so sure, and I just wanted to fix everything. You can't fix things by stealing from your mother. I know. He stood up, paced to the window, stared out at the parking lot. My lawyer says the deed transfer will be reversed. Everything goes back to you. But the house needs thousands in repairs before anyone can live there. And the investigation could take months. Months. I'd be in that motel room for months. What about Darlene and Randall? I asked. If you press charges, they could go to jail. Fraud, forgery, elder abuse. He turned to face me. It's up to you. Up to me. Like I had any power in this situation. Like I hadn't been stripped of everything. My home, my dignity, my trust in my own son. Officer Rothman came back. Mrs. Vernon, I need your statement. And we should discuss your options for moving forward. I gave my statement, signed forms, answered questions about every signature I'd never made, every permit I'd never filed, every lie that had been told in my name. The sun was setting when I finally left the station. Weston followed me to the parking lot. Mom, let me help. I'll pay for your hotel. I'll hire contractors to fix the house. I'll do whatever it takes. I turned to look at him. My baby. The child I'd rocked through nightmares and held through grief when his father died. The man who'd given away my home. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? I want my house back. I want to know that when I'm vulnerable and scared and sick, my own son won't throw me away. The words came out quiet, but they cut deep. I could see it on his face. For 3 days, Weston, I didn't know if I'd end up on the street. For 3 days, you let me wonder. That happened. We can't undo it. I know, but I can try to make it right. Maybe. I opened the taxi door I'd called while giving my statement. But not today. Today I need space. Where are you going? Extended stay, room 237. I got in. Don't call unless it's about the house or the investigation. Mom, I closed the door. The taxi pulled away and I didn't look back. My phone started ringing before I made it to the motel. By the time I walked into my room and plugged it in, I had 55 missed calls. Weston, Pepper, numbers I didn't recognize. A voicemail from Darlene sobbing and threatening to sue me for ruining her life. A text from Randall saying this was all a big misunderstanding and couldn't we work it out like family. Family. That word meant nothing anymore. I turned off the phone, lay down on the stiff motel bed, stared at the water-stained ceiling. Tomorrow I'd call Violet from the library. She'd know a good lawyer, the aggressive kind who didn't play nice. Tomorrow I'd start fighting back. But tonight I let myself cry for the son I thought I'd raised and the home I'd almost lost forever, and the woman I used to be who would have forgiven all of this without a second thought. That woman was gone, and I wasn't sure who was left in her place. The next morning I woke to sunlight streaming through the gap in the curtains. My phone showed 83 missed calls now. I deleted them without listening and called Violet. Maureen, thank God. She answered on the first ring. I heard what happened. Are you okay? No, but I will be. I sat up. My left leg tingled as circulation returned. I need a lawyer, a really good one. I know just the person, Naomi Trent. She handled my sister's estate dispute last year. Absolutely ruthless in the best way. She paused. This is going to get ugly, you know that, right? It's already ugly. Naomi Trent's office sat in a converted house downtown, painted dove gray with black shutters. She met me in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a view of the courthouse across the street. Mrs. Vernon? She shook my hand with a grip that could crack walnuts. Mid-40s, steel gray suit, eyes that missed nothing. Tell me everything. I did. The stroke, the hospital, coming home to find strangers in my house. The forged documents, the code violations, the 55 missed calls, all of it. She took notes in a leather portfolio, her pen scratching across the page like a knife. They committed multiple felonies, she said when I finished. Forgery, fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. And your son was either complicit or criminally negligent. She looked up. How far do you want to take this? I want my house back. You'll get it. The fraudulent deed transfer is void. But what about criminal charges? What about your son? My throat tightened. What would happen to him? Depends on what he knew and when. If he was in on the fraud, he could face charges too. If he was just negligent, if he trusted the wrong people and didn't do his due diligence, he might avoid criminal liability, but he'd still be responsible for the damage. And Darlene and Randall? Prison time. Potentially years. This isn't some minor paperwork mix-up. They stole your home while you were unconscious in a hospital bed. Her voice was sharp as glass. They deserve everything that's coming. I thought about Darlene's smug smile when she wore my mother's pearls. Randall's casual cruelty in my husband's cardigan. The sound of my own door locking me out. Do it, I said. All of it, Naomi smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Good. I'll file motions to reverse the deed, sue for damages, and I'll coordinate with the DA's office on the criminal case. This won't be quick and it won't be pretty. Are you prepared for that? I've spent 3 days in a motel room wondering if my own son loved me. I'm prepared for anything. Perfect. She stood and extended her hand again. Welcome to the fight, Mrs. Vernon. Let's make them regret ever hearing your name. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt since before the stroke. Power. Not the physical kind, my left leg still dragged and my hand still shook, but the kind that came from deciding you were done being a victim. The next weeks blurred together in a haze of legal documents and court dates. Naomi moved like a hurricane through the case, filing motions and depositions and discovery requests that buried Darlene and Randall in paperwork. The DA's office opened a criminal investigation. The house remained red-tagged and empty, a crime scene in everything but name. Weston called every day. I didn't answer. He showed up at the extended stay twice. I told the front desk I wasn't available. He sent flowers. I gave them to the housekeeper. Pepper came once, her eyes red from crying. She knocked on my door at 7 a.m, holding a coffee from the good place downtown. Mrs. Vernon, please, I need to talk to you. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. My parents made a mistake, she said. A huge mistake. But they're not bad people, they were desperate. My dad's medical bills were crushing us. We were going to lose everything. So you took mine instead. I didn't know, her voice rose. I didn't know they forged anything. I didn't know about the permits. Or the code violations. Weston said you'd signed papers before your stroke. He said this was all arranged. I believed him. Did you believe him when I showed up and they locked me out? When they laughed at me? The memory still burned. Where were you then, Pepper? She looked down. At work. I didn't know that happened until later. When I found out, I was horrified. I told them they couldn't do that, but they said you were being difficult, that you didn't understand the situation. I understood perfectly. They stole my house. They needed help. Everyone needs help. That doesn't make theft okay. I gripped the doorframe. Your parents committed crimes, Pepper. Multiple crimes. Against me. While I was fighting for my life in a hospital. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Please don't press charges. Please. They'll go to prison. My dad's health is already bad. This will kill him. What about what it did to me? She had no answer for that. I closed the door, gently but firmly. Through the thin walls, I heard her crying in the hallway, then footsteps, then silence. The preliminary hearing happened on a Tuesday. I sat in the courtroom with Naomi on my left and a victim's advocate on my right. Across the aisle, Darlene and Randall sat with their lawyer, a thin man with a nervous twitch. Weston sat behind them alone. Pepper was nowhere to be seen. The prosecutor laid out the evidence: forged signatures, expired notary seals, unlicensed contractors, code violations that could have burned down the entire neighborhood. The fraudulent deed transfer dated while I was unconscious in ICU. Darlene cried. Randall stared at his hands. Their lawyer argued they were victims too, that they'd been deceived by an unlicensed contractor, that they never meant any harm. The judge wasn't buying it. This court finds sufficient evidence to bind over the defendants for trial on all charges. Her gavel cracked like thunder. Yes, I. Bail is set at $50,000 each. Darlene's crying turned to sobs. Randall's face went gray. As they led them out, Darlene turned to look at me. Our eyes met across the courtroom. No more smugness, no more superiority, just fear. I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not pity, nothing. Outside the courthouse, Weston caught up with me. Mom, please. He looked terrible. Thinner, older. Can we talk? Really talk? I looked at Naomi. She nodded and stepped away to give us privacy. 5 minutes, I said. We sat on a bench under an oak tree. Late summer heat pressed down like a hand on my shoulders. I left Pepper, he said quietly. I turned to stare at him. What? Last week, I moved out. Filed for separation. He rubbed his face. I can't be married to someone whose parents did this. Every time I look at her, I see you on that porch. I see them laughing at you. I see what I let happen. Weston, I failed you, his voice broke. I failed you in the worst way possible. And I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. What I allowed. And I'm so, so sorry. The old Maureen would have hugged him, would have said, of course I forgive you. Of course we'll get through this. But the old Maureen died on that porch 3 months ago. I appreciate the apology, I said carefully. But sorry doesn't give me back the time I spent in that motel room. Sorry doesn't erase the humiliation, or the fear, or the nights I lay awake wondering if my own son cared if I lived or died. I care. I've always cared. You had a funny way of showing it. He nodded, accepted that. What happens now? Now we wait for trial. Now the house gets repaired. Now I figure out who I am after all this. I stood up. My leg cooperated for once. And you figure out who you are, because the man who gave away his mother's home? I don't know him. I don't know him either. Weston looked up at me. I want to be better. I want to earn back your trust. That's going to take time. Maybe years, maybe forever. I know. He stood too. But I'll try. For however long it takes. I'll try. I nodded and walked back to where Naomi waited by her car. The trial was set for January. The house repairs started in October. Insurance covered some of it. Naomi sued Darlene and Randall's contractor for the rest. By November, the red tag came off. By December, I had my keys back. I stood on the porch, my porch, and slid the key into the lock. It turned smooth as butter. The door opened and I stepped inside. Everything was the same, but different. New electrical, updated kitchen, fresh paint. They'd replaced the carpet with hardwood, fixed the garage, brought everything up to code and then some. But it felt empty, hollow, like a stage set of my old life. I walked through each room: the living room where Weston took his first steps, the kitchen where I'd packed school lunches for 12 years, the bedroom I'd shared with my husband before cancer took him. My phone rang. Naomi. The DA offered a plea deal, she said without preamble. Darlene and Randall plead guilty to felony fraud and elder abuse. 3 years prison, suspended to 18 months, 5 years probation, restitution for all damages, and a permanent restraining order keeping them away from you. What does that mean? It means they admit what they did, they pay for what they did, And if they so much as drive past your house, they go back to jail. She paused. It also means no trial, no dragging you through testimony, no risk of them being acquitted. It's a sure thing. Do it, I said. You sure? We could push for more time. I looked around my empty house. I'm sure. I don't want revenge. I just want peace. Peace it is. I'll tell the DA we accept. 6 months later, I stood in my garden planting new azaleas. The old ones had died over the winter. Time for something fresh. A car pulled up. Weston got out holding a box. We'd been talking, once a week, coffee at neutral locations, slow, careful, like two people learning a new language. I brought something, he said, walking up the driveway. Found it when I was packing up my old apartment. He opened the box. Inside were photo albums. Us at the beach when he was 7. His high school graduation. His father's last birthday. Memories preserved in plastic sleeves. Thought you might want these back, he said. Since you're home now. Home. The word landed different than it used to. Thank you. I took the box. Want to come in for coffee? He blinked like I'd offered him $1 million. Really? Really. We sat at my kitchen table, new table, old habit, and drank coffee and looked at pictures. He told me about his new apartment, his therapy sessions, the work he was doing to understand how he'd failed so badly. I told him about my physical therapy progress, my book club, the neighbor kid I'd started tutoring and reading. We didn't talk about Darlene and Randall serving their time 2 counties over. We didn't talk about Pepper, who'd moved back to her hometown. We didn't talk about the year we'd lost. We just sat, drank coffee, existed in the same space without explosions. When he left, he hugged me at the door. Thank you for giving me another chance. You're my son, I said. I'll always give you chances. But Weston, don't waste them. I won't. I promise. I watched him drive away, then closed my door. My door, my house, my life. It looked different than I'd planned. Smaller in some ways, bigger in others. The trust I'd had was gone, the innocence was shattered, but something new was growing in its place. Strength, boundaries, self-respect. I wasn't the same Maureen who'd stood on this porch 9 months ago begging to come inside. That woman was too soft, too trusting, too willing to sacrifice herself for people who'd take everything and call it love. This Maureen knew better. This Maureen had learned that love without respect is just exploitation. That family doesn't mean accepting abuse. That sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. And this Maureen knew that she'd survived. The stroke, the betrayal, the fight to get her home back, all of it. If she could survive that, she could survive anything. If you've ever been told you're too old, too weak, or too broken to fight back, you're stronger than they'll ever know. To anyone rebuilding after betrayal, every locked door teaches you which keys to throw away. You're not starting over, you're starting wiser. What lesson hit you hardest from this story, and if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Keep watching, click the next video on your screen right now, and see another powerful story from our channel. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.